In the Japanese mountains, mist doesn't just hide the trail, it whispers. And when the fog grows thick enough to swallow sound, old stories insist you're no longer walking through a place, you're walking through a presence. Her name is Yama Uba, the mountain witch who can command the elements, summoning storms or parting clouds as if the weather were a curtain. She appears as an elderly woman with long, untamed hair, sharp, knowing eyes, and in some tellings, a detail too grotesque to forget, a hidden mouth atop her head, concealed beneath the hair like a second hunger. To some travelers, she is a guide. To others, she is the last face they ever trust.
In Japan's old stories, the mountains aren't just stone and trees. They are thresholds, places where the world of people thins and something else begins to breathe through. Travelers have always known this. The way the fog gathers without wind, the way sound dies early among cedars, the way a path can look familiar and still feel wrong. And then there is the name whispered like a warning, as if saying it too loudly might summon the shape behind it. Yama uba, the mountain hag. A figure both feared and, strangely, revered. A witch and a wise woman, a guardian and a devourer. Some claim she saves the lost. Others insist she steals children into a hut no one can find twice. And the worst part is this: both can be true. Yama uba is not a simple monster. Folklore rarely is. Her story shifts depending on who tells it and when. In one telling, she's the wilderness itself, unpredictable, ancient and hungry. In another, she's a protector, offering shelter to travelers, guiding the stranded through lethal terrain. The legend changes across regions and centuries, but its heartbeat stays the same. The mountain is sacred, the mountain is dangerous, and something in it remembers every footstep. Long before modern roads, mountains were treated as living domains, sacred spaces inhabited by spirits and gods. In those older beliefs, nature wasn't scenery, it was presence. Yama uba is thought to emerge from that worldview, an embodiment of the mountain's will, its mercy and its cruelty, a reminder that the wild does not exist to be conquered, it exists to be respected or paid for. Some stories describe Yama uba as a guide, a presence that finds the lost, those who stumble off the trail, those who can't outwalk the storm. She offers warmth, a roof, a bowl of food, and in these versions she can seem almost maternal, linked to fertility, childbirth, and the harsh compassion of survival. But folklore has rules, even when it pretends it doesn't. A gift from the mountain is never free, and when a stranger welcomes you into a place that doesn't feel mapped by human hands, the question becomes, did you find shelter, or did shelter find you? Then the tales turn. In darker accounts, Yama uba is not a guide, she is a lure. She draws children away from safety, into a secluded hut deep in the mountains. Sometimes she devours them. Sometimes she transforms them into strange beings, mischievous mountain imps said to haunt the woods. And notice the pattern. The horror isn't only the witch, it's the location. A place so remote it feels detached from time, where the usual protections of society don't reach. A mountain hut can look like refuge, but in these stories, it's a mouth. Yama uba is often described as an elderly woman, hair long and wild, teeth sharp, eyes that glow with an unnatural light. But her most dangerous feature may be her flexibility. The legends grant her supernatural powers. She can manipulate the weather. She can disguise herself as human. She can become what you need to see, long enough to get close. In a world built on narrow paths and fragile supplies, a sudden storm is not ambience, it's an execution method. And if the mountain wants you to stop moving, it has 1,000 ways to convince your body. There's another layer here, one that makes Yama uba endure. In Japanese culture, the witch archetype can embody fear of women who live outside social norms. Yama uba is a figure of the margins. She is wilderness. She is solitude. She is independence taken to an extreme that society can't neatly name. That's why she's portrayed as both monstrous and wise, both nurturing and predatory. She is what happens when a story tries to trap the uncontrollable in a single word, and fails. Not all stories paint her as a pure predator. One of the most famous traditions connects Yama uba to Kintaro, a legendary child hero said to have been raised by her in the mountains. Here she becomes a mother figure, nurturing strength, teaching the child the ways of nature, raising something wild into something powerful. It's a startling contrast. The same hands that, in other tales, steal children, here are the hands that protect one. And it forces the viewer to confront the true theme. The mountain doesn't follow human morality, it follows its own. Yama uba didn't remain trapped in campfire stories. She moved into art and performance, appearing in theatre traditions and visual depictions. Her character explored as motherhood, transformation, and fear. In these portrayals, she becomes less a single creature and more a mirror, a reflection of how people imagine the wild, a reflection of what society casts out and then fears in the dark. Because once a culture gives the wilderness a face, it can argue with it, it can plead with it, it can blame it, and it can pretend, briefly, that the mountain is negotiable. Even now, Yama uba persists in modern imagination, reappearing in new forms, sometimes as villain, sometimes as guardian, sometimes as symbol. Her endurance suggests something uncomfortable. People still feel the same unease when facing what they can't fully control. The wilderness, isolation, hunger, power that doesn't require permission. And the old warning remains useful. Be careful when you enter places that do not belong to you. Not because the mountain is evil, but because it is indifferent. And indifference, when you're alone in the fog, can look a lot like malice. The strangest part of the Yama uba legend is not the teeth, or the storms, or the hut hidden deep in cedar shadows. It's the invitation baked into the tale. Because the mountain witch doesn't chase everyone. She waits. She appears when someone is lost, physically, or otherwise. When the path disappears, when pride says, keep going, and the body says, stop. And if, in that moment, a warm light appears through the trees, a small hut, a gentle voice, a place that feels like rescue, folklore asks the final question: is it kindness? Or is it a mouth that learned how to smile?
In the Japanese mountains, mist doesn't just hide the trail, it whispers. And when the fog grows thick enough to swallow sound, old stories insist you're no longer walking through a place, you're walking through a presence. Her name is Yama uba, the mountain witch who can command the elements, summoning storms or parting clouds as if the weather were a curtain. She appears as an elderly woman with long, untamed hair, sharp, knowing eyes, and in some tellings, a detail too grotesque to forget, a hidden mouth atop her head, concealed beneath the hair like a second hunger. To some travelers, she is a guide. To others, she is the last face they ever trust. Thank you so much for visiting my channel. If you enjoyed this episode, please tap that like button. I would also appreciate it if you would consider subscribing to my channel. To be notified of new episodes, click the bell icon. Until next time, my spookies, take care and watch your six.